Hey y'all, and welcome back to Cajun Country Livin'. As y'all can tell, we are already standing in our form for our next dry pour concrete.
Living in South Louisiana, one of the big issues that we have is dealing with mud. Sometimes we get a lot of rain and we don't get much of a break from it. So the area going into our porch has been a muddy mess ever since we've got the porch put together.
We did have some rocks right here, but we decided to pull them up and go ahead and do a dry pour.
So this project is going to be a little bit different than the two previous videos that we put out before pertaining to this. This slab is actually going to be 4 inches thick. It's going to have reinforcement, and it might even end up with a little different finish than you'd imagine. As
y'all can tell, we got the first steps done of our dry pour. If y'all need a detailed explanation of how to get to this step, make sure to go check out our last video. I'm gonna put the link right here on the screen, and we're gonna show y'all real quick how we did this a little bit differently than we did the first two.
So this walkway is gonna end up being 5 foot by 5'6". We wanted to make sure the width of the walkway was exactly the width of our French doors leading into the main entrance of our home. Now we're gonna be totally honest with you. We do not need a 4-inch slab here. But we got so many questions about how do you do a 4-inch slab, because we normally do them 1.5 inches. But then again, that's mostly just for foot traffic, and they hold up really good. And you can see that if you watch the video where we built the slab for our chicken coop. So when we figured out exactly where we wanted this form to sit out, one thing that you got to keep in mind if you want it perfectly square is to make sure that you go from corner to corner with your measurements. And building these forms is incredibly simple to do. All we did was cut one 2x4 5 feet long and cut the two longer boards 5 foot 7.5. That way, whenever we butted up the 2x4, which is 1.5 inches thick, that left us with 5 foot and 6 inches. In our last video, we laid the 2x4s flat to show that you could do that, and we mitered the corners to fit them together on an angle. So either way works fine. So a couple things to keep in mind when you're doing something like this that's going to go up against your house, your porch, some area that you want to be able to control your water flow. The outside edge of the slab is going to be level. So on your two sides, you want them running downhill on an angle. Depending on how long of a slab you pour, you want a little more angle. This is going to be a relatively short walkway, so we're just going to put a little better than 1/4 inch of fall.
So now that we're at the point that we can start actually putting our dry concrete in, I want to give y'all a quick disclaimer. If you are doing this at home, you should absolutely be wearing a mask. For us, we're just going to be really mindful of the wind. It is 90 degrees out here today, it is humid, and the sun is beating right down on us. So putting on that mask is going to create so much more heat for us. We're just going to be very, very mindful of which way the wind is blowing, and y'all make the decision on your own part. But safety first, definitely do wear a mask if you're doing this at home. So this time we brought our concrete a lot closer to the slab. Last time we got a million questions saying, why didn't y'all move the truck a lot closer? Well, something that we didn't show y'all was that the ground had actually been pretty wet because of all the rain that we had, so everything was very soft, which meant that we could not back the truck up any closer without us running up the yard. But this time, we got dry weather and we parked our concrete real close.
Being as this is going to be a thicker slab than we usually pour, and we're going to add reinforcement, we're going to fill the form halfway up with concrete. Making this slab thicker with reinforcement wire is going to make it incredibly strong. You can be able to drive over it, you can do whatever you want. Now, the reason that we made this 5 foot wide was a reason besides just wanting to match these doors. The wheelbase on our side-by-side is 5 inches outside to outside, and sometimes we like to back it on the porch and unload things, and this is going to be the perfect width to do that.
Now, we are definitely not saying that in order to be able to back something or drive something on this, it needs to be 4 inches and have structural reinforcement in it. So y'all just keep in mind that we are doing this for y'all. We have drove on our slab that's 1.5 inches thick with Jim's truck, which is an F250. So if that doesn't tell you anything, that concrete this way is very, very strong, which we're gonna get into later, but let's go ahead and get this done.
A store-bought 2x4 is 1.5 inches by 3.5 inches. The area inside our form averages about a ½ inch lower than the bottom of our forming boards. This gives us an average thickness of 4 inches for this walkway.
The type of concrete that we're using today is Quikrete. These 80-pound sacks run $5.13 at Home Depot, and for these forms we use 13.5 bags, adding up to $71.82.
Well, for reinforcement wire, you can use just about anything you want. You can use rebar, you can use chicken wire. I've seen people use chain link fence, knit wire, you name it.
Make sure that your reinforcement wire isn't touching your forms. If it is, it will be exposed to the environment, allowing it to rust, expand, and eventually cause cracking. And now that we have our reinforcement wire laid in position, let's finish filling up the forms with concrete.
We poured this walkway right up against our porch slab. We don't have ground freezing and heaving issues here. If you live in an area that experiences ground freezing, I'd definitely put in some kind of expansion joint so that your slab can move up and down freely with the ground.
We do start the screeding process before we have the form completely full of concrete. This will help spread out the concrete and let you know how much more you need to add to the form.
Now you just seen us run the screed across the top here. You see all these rocks. The reason you see these rocks is because we did not have enough concrete here. The concrete needs to be higher than the forming boards, and when you're making that sawing action, it's going to make that powder settle out and it's going to bury those rocks into the slab, just like it did right here. So this side we had plenty of concrete, and right here we just didn't have enough.
We have a few small voids here, so we are going to add just a pinch of concrete to all these small areas, then run back over it with the screed.
So in our last video, I used this edger to make a nice soft edge on the edge of the slab. On this one, we're not going to do that. We really don't have a need. The landscaping is going to butt up to both sides of this slab. I love this part. It makes such a huge transition. We had a lot of questions around the paint roller on finishing the concrete. So a couple things. You want to make sure that your paint roller is dry. I use a 3/8 nap or a 1/2 inch nap, whatever's available. And the finish that it's going to leave on your concrete gives the appearance that it is really, really smooth. And that can be concerning, like in a wet condition. You might be afraid you're going to slip on it or something. The texture it leaves is actually like a sandpaper non-skid effect. You're not going to slip on this stuff.
So at this point, just to clarify, there has been no water added at all.
None. Oh, that's a great point. We've had people say, why don't you wet the ground before you do this? It could speed up the process. The fact is, the concrete absorbs this moisture so fast. And if you run into taking a little more time than you want to on this, you can actually start getting wet spots all the way through from the moisture that it's soaking up from the ground. That causes an issue when you get ready to put the finish on your slab. It'll all be dry and have 2 or 3 wet spots, and that finish won't look good in there. So we always try to leave it as dry as we possibly can. Of course, when you do a slab like this, feel free to try different things. You may like it that way. Who knows?
So at this point, you can start watering, but before we show y'all all the details into that, we're gonna show y'all the custom finish that we're gonna put on this walkway.
We thought, we live in South Louisiana, why not throw some alligator skin down there?
So I found this roller on Amazon. I believe it ran about $20. So if this works good, y'all stay tuned for our house build, because I guarantee you it's gonna make another appearance somewhere in the house, on a wall, who knows where.
Now, we've never done this before. So you are watching it and we are watching it together. So if it looks horrible, we can all watch us mess up together. But I think it'll be all right.
To be noted once again, everything is still dry. No
Absolutely.
water has been added.
Remember, if you try something like this and it don't turn out the way you like it, just go over it again with your paint roller and smooth it right out. It's just like using an eraser. You can start over from scratch. We applied different pressures while rolling this design on our walkway. We liked the contrast that it gave.
Some people might not agree, but I think that's probably one of the freaking coolest things we've ever done.
It's pretty awesome. It really is. Like an alligator skin textured concrete walkway. If that don't scream South Louisiana, then I don't know what does.
We've got our texture on. We both absolutely love it. So now it is time to start watering. And this is something that we didn't get into much detail last time about. So this time we're really gonna hit it in a lot of great detail for y'all. So the first thing to keep in mind whenever you're gonna be misting is that you're gonna mist for the first hour, and then you're gonna come back an hour later and mist again. And whenever I say mist, I mean hold the mister at least 4 or 5 feet above the concrete slab and continuously move your arm. So it's just gonna be like this. It's gonna be very, very fine, and it's gonna take just a minute, but all that concrete's gonna turn just a little bit of a darker color. The reason that we use the misting setting and we keep such a high distance away is because y'all gotta keep in mind that this is a fine powder. So the closer that you get and the more force that you put on with this water, the more that it's gonna wash all that away. Now, if that's a look that you're going for, you can absolutely do that.
If you want to do one of these slabs for yourself, here is a quick and easy way to figure out how many bags of concrete that you'll need. The first thing you need to know, are you going to be using 80-pound sacks or 60-pound sacks? There is 0.6 cubic feet of material in an 80-pound sack, and there is 0.45 cubic feet in a 60-pound sack. The formula to figure this is length times width times height, measured in feet. The height represents the thickness of your slab. So in order to convert those inches into feet, you just divide the inches by 12. So here's an example right here of a 4 foot by 4 foot by 4 inch slab using 80-pound bags of concrete. So now Lydia's got this thing misted down for the first time. We're gonna wait an hour, we're gonna come back and we're gonna mist it again. What we found is a rule of thumb. After you mist it and that top little bit of crust starts getting hard to where it won't damage your finish whenever you start to shower, the rule of thumb that we use is we should give it 2 showers per inch. And so far, it has worked out really, really good. So if you have a 4-inch slab, we water it 8 times. One of the things that we got asked a lot was, my Lord, it takes so much time. Why would you even consider doing that? In all actuality, it takes about 30 minutes to pour a slab this size, and it takes about 10 seconds to dampen it down, and the other time we're doing other things. We're not even thinking about that slab. We'll set a reminder, it'll go off, we'll come back out here, another 10, 15 seconds, just dampen it down, going about our business. The thing about mixing it is, I mean, that's perfectly fine. People's been doing that for years and years, and it works great. But you mix it, you pour it, you finish it, bam, 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 that's what you have to do. The way we do it, if you get halfway done with it and you get tired, you can go in the house and cool off. You've got all the time in the world, because all you have is dry powder sitting in a wooden box. It ain't gonna hurt a thing.
Now it's time for the second misting. The top has now began to get firm after the second misting. So now we turn our nozzle to the shower setting and start our shower cycles. So y'all remember the rule of thumb. This is going to take a total of 8 showers since it's a 4-inch slab. Here's the slab on the very next morning. It doesn't need any more water, but we wanted to demonstrate how fast the water wicks into the concrete. So if you're concerned that there's going to be spots that are dry powder, let us put your mind at ease.
We poured this slab 2 days ago, so it is officially day 3 of our dry pour concrete.
As you can see, most of this concrete is this lighter color. There's a few darker areas around the outside edge of these forming boards. That's moisture still, it's not completely dry there, but that's just fine. We're gonna go ahead and pull these forming boards off, see what this thing looks like.
For us, what has worked the best is waiting 2 days to pull the forms. Now, if you have time, it is absolutely not going to hurt anything to leave these forms on as long as you want to. But for us, whenever we start seeing these forms pull away from the slab, we know that it's ready to come off.
Now, if you're in an absolute hurry, you can pull the forms off the next day. In the last video that we did about pouring a concrete slab, we actually pulled those forms the very next day.
I don't even think it was a full 24 hours that we went ahead and pulled them.
To be in our comfort zone, we like to wait at least 2 days.
Okay, let's pull them up and see.
So you're in a hurry, well you better calm down. We're all friends around you, just join the fun. 'Cause if you're in a hurry, you're missing the point. Should enjoy the fruits of life instead of chasing coins. Because it's a beautiful day. Isn't it so come on, let's play.
We couldn't leave y'all hanging, so we wanted to finish up the front to show y'all the final look. Overall, we spent less than $150 on this whole area.
We got plenty of time. Taking it easy won't cost you a dime. Throw another log onto the fire. Because
Since our last dry pour video, we have had people reach out letting us know how much our dry pour is beneficial to them. From comments saying they can now pour walkways for walkers and wheelchairs to pouring a whole driveway. And we do wish that we could be there every step of the way with everybody who's been doing this. We want everyone to know that that right there is why we do this. So many people have come up with great ideas and uses for this around their home, and it warms our heart to be able to provide y'all with whatever help we can. We have a lot more dry pour projects coming up. From different texture finishes to inside home projects, we'll be showing y'all every application that we can think of to use this method. Also, we're going to be putting our dry pour to the test, so make sure you're subscribed to our channel so you don't miss a thing. We'll see you on Wednesday, Cajun family.